We will start by visualizing the categorical data or the non-metric data to begin. Here we have the records of 15 individuals' color preferences. We can see there are several colors: blue, red, green, yellow, white, and so on. We need to determine the distribution of these colors as the preference, and how can we visually represent it. In this case, we will need to pre-process the data to make it suitable for data visualization. What I want to do is I want to first figure out what are the unique colors in this data set. So let me just copy and paste, and I'll go to the data tab and I will locate where is the remove duplicates, and I click on the remove duplicates in this column. So what it will do is it will remove all the repeating names of the colors and keep us with only the unique colors in the data set. We need to know the frequency of each of these colors. So we will use the formula COUNTIF. We will do a conditional counting if it meets the condition of the specific color. So let us say the data is here, and I have put the $sign so that the references do not change as we copy the data underneath this cell. And the color that we want to use here is blue. So we know that there are two instances of blue color in this data set. I can drag this formula underneath and it will automatically keep referring to the next color in every other cell. Now this data is suitable for data visualization. In typical data visualization tools, this step is not required to be conducted by the analyst. So let's visualize it. We can visualize it as a pie chart, and we can see the relative proportions of each of these colors. And for the sake of readability, I can make the colors in the pie correspond to the actual color names. So let's see. First one is blue. Blue is blue. So let's change the red color to red. So I can simply go and select red. Third one is green. Let's make green green. Let me choose a different green. Yellow is yellow. White is white. Since it does not have a boundary, so it does not show up here, so I can just put a color shape outline there. And the last one is purple. Let's use purple for purple. I can put the shape outline for all of them so there is a consistency. So now we can see the distribution of these colors. If I wish, I can add the data labels for each of the colors so that we can read the corresponding frequencies. In fact, we can even change the color of the font so that it becomes easily readable against the contrasting background. Right? So we can do these modifications and get the colors and the font sizes and the font colors suited to our requirement. We can also represent this data in form of bar charts. We go here and let's put it here. And let me change the font size so that it's easily readable. If we wish, we can sort them by the ascending order of colors, and we can see that white has the highest frequency, green has the lowest frequency, and we can see the corresponding frequencies here. We can do some improvements in the aesthetics by using these chart elements into the data label on the outside end. Then I don't need the this y-axis and so on and so forth. So a very neat chart, right? And I can drag and drop it and place it wherever it's convenient for us to keep it. So this is how we visualize the non-metric data. Let us take into account another type of non-metric data, such as student grades, wherein the scores in the exam are converted to the letter grades. So in such a situation, how do we visualize this? So again, we would need to know the map between the letter grades and the score ranges. So these letter grades are now ordinal data because there is a sense of order, but the distance between them need not necessarily be same, right? So in such a case, what we need to know is we need to know the upper bound, because we're going to invoke a special formula which will help us calculate the count of each of these letter grades occurrences in this data. So for this, we use an array formula called frequency. So I'm going to select these cells. I will select and I will use equal to frequency. I need to specify where the data is. So data is here, comma, the bins. We will select all but one, because all the remaining frequencies will be bundled together and put into a last category by this formula. So when we put enter, it automatically computes the frequency for each of these letter grades. Now if you wish, we can do a frequency bar chart for this. We can press the control key and select these two arrays which are not contiguous, and click on the frequency to delete this title, and we can see the distribution of grades from A plus to F. So this is how we represent the non-metric ordinal data. Now when we were doing the non-metric nominal data, there was no sense of order. So we ordered in the decreasing frequency of the frequency. Here it is better to keep the ascending or descending order of the x-axis or the categories, because there is a sense of order, and then let the frequency of each of these categories be plotted. Now let's move to metric data. We have the record of 50 students and their respective ages. Here the data is metric, and of course, as we can see here, it is ratio scaled. So how do we do the visualization here? Let's see, these ages are in integers, and we can see what is the maxima and the minima. The minimum is 20 and maximum is 30. So there are 11 distinct values at max. There can be less, but 11 are of course there between 20 and 30. So what we can do is we can create the age. I can use the formula sequence. (11 rows). There are no columns. Start it as 20 in step size of 1. And as soon as I enter, I want 11 records to be created in starting from 20 in the ascending order of step size of 1. So I'm able to generate 20 to 30, and I can use the frequency or the count formula to count these respective occurrences of each of these ages. So I can go ahead, select the data array, specify the criteria, enter, and double click once we see this thick black crosswire, and we can see this is the frequency for each of these ages. Let's see if the sum is 50. Yep, we have total 50 records, so the sum is 50. And now we can do our bar chart. Now here it has selected this age also on the y-axis, so we'll delete it. Now we want to only delete this values from the y-axis, and these should actually be on the x-axis. So I'm going to go to the chart design, select data, and edit and indicate where the data labels are. So here are those values. Click OK. And now we can see the frequency distribution for each of the ages in this data set. So this is how we do the frequency plot for the different ages in the class. Let's take one more example of metric data where the number of categories are way too many. So here I'm looking at the commuting time that the student takes to arrive at a college. So there are 200 students, and if I look at the minimum is it takes 15 minutes, and a maximum it takes 90 minutes. So now between 15 and 90 there are 76 values. So 76 values are way too many for us to manage, so we can choose intervals instead of the actual values. Also, in case of real numbers, the values can go into several thousands. In such a case, doing a frequency plot for each of those values might generate a spurious, noisy frequency plot. So we have considered interval of 15 minutes, 0 to 15, right up to 75 to 90. Since 90 is the maximum, we can choose suitable intervals. Typically the thumb rule is we don't look for more than 10 to 15 categories depending upon the requirement. If there are way too many unique values with very spurious small little frequencies, we can bundle them together as another category called others. So let's look at this interval. So I'm going to use the formula concat to create a sense of interval. So we want bracket, lower bound, comma, let's put a hyphen in between, comma, upper bound, comma, close the bracket. And when we close this, we see it creates the interval 0 to 15, 15 to 30, and so on and so forth. This is optional if you don't want to kind of specify, or if you are not looking for a very specific kind of representation. We can use a 0 to 15 and so on as the interval categories as well. Now here we can count the frequency using frequency formula. Okay, we need to select all these cells equal to frequency, data array is here, comma, and we specify the upper bound. Okay, I need to specify the entire bin array, all but one, because it will automatically create a category for all remaining ones. And when I press enter, it automatically populates a frequency of the occurrences of each of the time intervals. Once we have this, we are able to do a plot for this, and we can see it has identified the categories underneath, and we have got the interval frequency plot now. So this is how we do visualization using Excel for the non-metric nominal, non-metric ordinal, metric with fewer distinct values, and metric with several distinct values.